A state of public emergency was declared last night through an extraordinary gazette that was issued by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and will remain in effect until further notice. According to the gazette, the president has taken the decision to ensure public security, to protect public order, and to maintain supplies and services essential to the life of the people. Meanwhile, the Department of Government Information announced today that an island-wide curfew will be in effect from 6 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. on Monday, the 4th of April. President's counsel Sarat Jayamana believes that the move may have been to stifle a mass protest scheduled to take place tomorrow.
We do not know whether it is a police curfew or whether those curfew has been imposed acting under the emergency regulations. If so, by now we must have emergency regulations. In the public domain, there was a talk that tomorrow there will be some protests from various quarters. Probably in order to curtail those protests, they may have introduced this emergency regulation.
With that, the Bar Association of Sri Lanka was quick to express its concern over the president's declaration and urged him to revoke it immediately. In its letter, the BASL says that it believes that this is not the answer to the situation in the country, citing the spate of protests the island has seen in the past few days. It also accuses the government of having failed to understand and empathize with the people suffering and of also taking away the fundamental right to dissent. The bar also warns the public to engage only in peaceful protests and to be wary of elements who seek to cause violence and destruction in order to strengthen the hand of those who wish to suppress the freedom of expression and assembly. All acts of violence and destruction during a protest, be it towards private or public property, cannot be condoned and must only be condemned, it added. Speaking to AdaDerana English News, Attorney at Law Tishya Veragodu explained what a public emergency means for the people.
It is only for a period of 1 month and it will lapse thereafter, and it has to be forthwith communicated to the parliament, and if the parliament approves it, only the 1 month period will count. If the parliament rejects it, immediately the emergency will lapse. Or if the parliament does not approve it and it is kept in abeyance after 14 days, it will still lapse. So in this context, right now saying that the country is in a state of emergency means very little unless and until His Excellency the President promulgates some sort of emergency regulations. Now, we can only speculate about this because we do not know what His Excellency the President would do. It is likely that the President might try to make a emergency regulation saying that street protests are banned. Unlikely that the Supreme Court would hold that that is legal. There's a very famous authority, Surya Besekara versus Arya Rubasinghe, where the Supreme Court has already reviewed this issue and held that emergency regulations are subject to the Constitution, and if it is constitutionally overbroad, it can be struck down.
He also went on to explain how and what people can do if they are faced with any form of police torture.
The police might try to justify assault by saying that it was for legitimate purposes, it was during the course of arrest. But generally, your injuries would suggest otherwise because a medical doctor would be able to identify what was caused during the use of exercise of necessary force as opposed to beating and torture. It is important that if you are subjected to any torture during the police raids or if you are harassed, immediately get yourself admitted to a hospital, get your injuries recorded, make sure that that is done properly, seek legal aid. Of course, if you're assaulted and you sustain injuries, you are entitled to seek damages in the district court action. You are entitled to file a fundamental rights application. You are entitled to go before the Human Rights Commission. Putting pressure back on them, saying that you touch me, I will take you to court, would possibly result with police officers also being cautious.
In the meantime, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Julie Chung took to social media today to offer a reminder of the importance of the right to democratic expression, adding that the US was watching the situation closely. The US envoy called for restraint from all sides and stated that she hoped Sri Lanka would see some much-needed economic stability and relief for everyone at the receiving end. In addition, British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Sarah Houlton expressed her concern over reports of the use of force against journalists and protesters and the recently imposed emergency laws, as she went on to say that peaceful protests are a citizen's right and an essential part of democracy.